We now welcome in Duke head women's coach Kerstin Kimel. And Kerstin, you're one of the few places, or a handful of places around the country where you have lacrosse players back on campus. You have a chance to see your team. Just kind of walk me through what it's like to have the players back and getting a chance to have maybe a little sense of normalcy in the midst of all of everything going on.
Well, first of all, we're so grateful that Duke has done an amazing job with regards to our entire campus, but especially with regards to how we have brought our student athletes back. And so last Monday, we had a very large group of student athletes check in, both lacrosse teams, baseball, softball, track, golf, tennis, swimming, wrestling. And, just to get to see the kids as they kind of walk down the hill to our testing center was really awesome. And we haven't seen them in person, since March. And so, just to have them back on campus and getting into some kind of routine right now is fantastic for them, especially. I think for this age group, they need to be in structure. They need to feel some normalcy right now. And for us as their coaches, we're just so happy and grateful that we're able to be operational right now.
Walk people through the process, because obviously it is complex on every college campus right now. Walk through the process of how you get players on campus and then what they go through in order to get to the point where you were this week, where you finally have a chance to do some on-field work.
Sure. So our girls checked in on August 10th and went right to our kind of testing center in our athletic facility. And after they tested, they were instructed to go to their rooms. They couldn't move. The kids on campus couldn't move into their dorms until they had a test. And then once they were tested, they were under a strict quarantine until we had their results. And so once we had their results, we then were able to start what is called the acclimation period, which is an NCAA designated period right now, where kids just kind of start getting back into their routines, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Like, okay, I'm back at school and I'm back with my sport, and let's go. So last week, the kids were still under pretty strict orders of masking, distancing. Even if they wanted to be out on the field, they had to be very, very spread out. We kind of had a diagram of blocks on the field they could use. If they were along our wall ball, they had to have their masks on, because they would probably be, maybe within six feet of each other. But last week, they were also able to start doing some running work with our strength coach, which they did, just to kind of ease them in. And then Duke has a really rigorous testing program, so we're tested every Saturday around noon, and we get our results within a day, and then we can kind of start our new week. So this week, we've made it through 2 rounds of testing, which is great, because then that also kind of closes out any kind of potential incubation period from contracting COVID during travel to campus. So now we feel like, okay, here we go. So this week we were able to start, once we cleared the acclimation period, which was yesterday. Today was our first day that we as coaches could go out and actually see the kids doing stuff. So they're out on the turf, really well spaced out with our strength and conditioning staff, just getting going, running, stretching, all of that kind of stuff. They're antsy to pick up their sticks. We're going to do that next week. But, and then we've got another round of testing this Saturday. So it's really good. I think it makes the kids feel better. It is a lot of protocol, and there's a lot of questions, understandably, and they're kids. And so they're not going to be perfect. They are going to make mistakes. But, in general, we have just an unbelievable team here at Duke leading us through this. Dr. Cameron Wolf is our head epidemiologist and head of infectious disease. He is also chair of the ACC medical group and is working with the Power 5 group. And so he has jumped on Zoom calls with teams, parents, coaches, answered questions. Every week he's doing a Q&A with the kids, and the kids have great questions. Our AFCO people, our athletic facilities and game operations people, Bob Wiseman and Becca Willis, they have just an unbelievable plan for us to be able to keep playing, which is our hashtag, keep playing. So right now we feel good. The kids feel safe, and we're off and running. So again, no complaints, just really happy that we're back.
And so much of that now, once especially get through that first period of making sure the players are on campus and they don't test positive, is now making sure that everybody stays that way. Like, what's your message to the team? Because I think we see it at the NFL level all the way through now to college and high school about making sure they're safe and they are doing everything they can to make sure everybody stays healthy so you guys can keep doing what you guys love to do when it comes to being on the field.
Absolutely. And, I'm not going to sit here and kind of rattle off the tons of do's and don'ts, but what I've tried to give the kids is, especially our leaders, are some guiding principles. And there's three of them. And that is, number one, use your common sense. Number two, what are the optics? So if you are in a situation and someone kind of walked in and looked around, would they have an issue with your spacing or your masking or anything like that? And third is to make sure that everything we do demonstrates and how we act and live right now has got to reflect a level of respect for the people here in our athletic program and at Duke Medical who have gone to such lengths to put us in a position where we can play. So if the kids can really remember some of the basic rules, which I won't run you through, but kind of live by those three principles, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape this fall.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So everything goes according to plan. What is the plan for this fall? Like, I mean, how normal can it be with everything going on?
Well, I think practice probably will look different. I mean, and we're going to definitely have more of a ramp up into practice than maybe we normally would. In typical years, we have about 10 days of doing kind of small work and getting the kids growing, and then we jump right into practice, and we usually have a scrimmage right at the end of our first week. But the ACC, and I don't think Duke would have anyway, we're not allowed to play any outside competition this year, or this fall, I should say. But practice should look pretty normal once we get to that point, which is in a couple of weeks. And we intend to practice, middle of September through the end of October, 5 days a week. No scrimmages, outside scrimmaging, which is fine. Our roster's got 40 kids on it this year, so we have more than enough people to play full field. And we intend as coaches to have a lot of fun with the girls and just be creative in our approach, as well as careful and cautious around COVID, and just put ourselves in a position where we feel like we've kind of caught up from missing so much of the spring, but also are kind of launching ourselves towards getting ready for the 2021 season.
You guys leave being together back in March, and it was so sudden and abrupt, I think, for every team. And so now you bring everybody back, and we're going through everything we are. How surreal is it to walk back on the field and have that be the new normal and see your team and obviously be happy, but having to worry about all these other things? I have to feel like it's got to be weird.
It is a little bit. I mean, it's a little interesting to stand on the sideline in a mask. But at the same time, and I reminded our returners this, I said, listen, if on March 12th, when our season came to a close, if people had asked us, are you willing to do A to Z, wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, do all these things in order to keep playing, you would have said yes in a heartbeat. So we try to keep things in perspective here and realize that we're really fortunate. We know there's a lot of schools that are 100% virtual this semester and whose teams aren't on campus or are going to have very limited opportunity to practice and do things together. So we're just trying to keep gratitude at an all-time high and go one day at a time, 1 week at a time. I said our staff, we're not planning out more than 1 week at a time. It doesn't make sense to do that as things can change really quickly in our world right now. But it is an interesting time. And again, I just keep kind of stressing to everybody, our staff and our players, we have an incredible plan here at Duke to stay safe and keep playing, and we intend to follow it to the fullest.